Ending a week dedicated to unusual beast formers, how about we end off on a toy specifically known only for its beast mode? In fact, it's easy to forget he has any kind of robot mode at all because technically he does not have one. You will see what I mean. If you've never seen this toy before, oh boy, are you in for a treat. This is Scorponok from the original Michael Bay movie toy line. It's going to be an odd one. Now, from the first glance, this actually looks pretty accurate to the original design of the movie's character, and indeed it seems to be, at least for the most part. It's cast in kind of a dull metallic gray, which gives it kind of an aged and more iron kind of look to him, along with some bronze paint and plastic, as well as a little bit of gold here and there. It keeps it to very standard metallic colors all the way around, with only a break in the tail where it kind of gives way to some standard gray plastic instead. There's a little bit of black here and there too. Beyond that, the deco itself is pretty lavish. There's a lot of paint and deco on him, especially from the bronze and a little bit of red here and there, in particular the eyes on the beast mode. He does have a very creepy vestige, doesn't he? You can see those little mandibles down at the bottom. Only 4 eyes on him. I'm pretty sure Scorpion's got more than that, but I'm no biologist. And then, of course, he has everything else that's going for him deco-wise. Let's take a tour, and we'll just kind of examine things on him. Let's see, so I'm going to start over here on the back where it says rescue. It says rescue in this direction. I'm not sure what's so much rescue about his hind leg, but I'm sure it's there for some reason. I don't think he's going to do any rescuing, but that's just me. 0360. I have no idea what that means. It may or may not be the passcode to my iPhone. Don't know. No step. Well, hopefully not. His head's there, and then there's also this big grinder you might accidentally hit. That'd be bad. Caution. Fuel. Explosive. What, in his head? His gas tank is in his head. That does not seem like smart design. It's just me. Like, you designed your Decepticons the only way you want to. It's just an observation on my part. Let's see. Nothing on the bottom. You have the claws. Danger. Keep away. Well, that actually does kind of make a little bit more sense than the rest of them, doesn't it? Now, I'm having a little bit of fun here, but the truth is that, in theory, Scorponok in the movie did not have any kind of alternate form other than this Scorpion mode, which is supposedly his actual robot mode, but in the movie, he's kind of just a chunk of blackout, which is why he has all of these military-style stamps and decos on him, you know, your typical stuff that you'd see on a big military vehicle. So there is a logical reason for having it, but I do find it very silly since that's not something that's made relatively clear in the movie, that his armor is made up of parts of the helicopter. Let's talk about actual playability on this guy. See if there's anything else he actually does. Well, the articulation level, he does have these scorpion legs that are on ball joints. He's missing one. You know, scorpions have 8 legs including the big claw arms. So he is 1 leg shy. Let's see. He does have a few hinges in the tail. 1, 2, 3. So that's good. A rotation at the base as well as one up here. That does give his tail a decent range of motion and posability for all of your scorpion stinging needs. The tail cannot reach beyond him, so he cannot properly strike, but the designers did find a way around this. This trident-like stinger can launch forward by a push of the button. And it's a missile I can fire on camera without fear because it does stop there at the end. Part of me does kind of wish it just fired off like a typical missile, but at the same time, it's that stinging action that really gets the scorpion across, and it does just reach past his head, so you actually do get a proper sting out of it. That part works. Let's see what else he has going on here. Well, we got universal shoulder movement over here, as well as a full range in the bicep and elbow. He also has what I would call one of the most complex internal gimmicks I've ever seen on a deluxe Transformer. Everything in here and all the way through the arms is geared for very specific purposes. Now, typically, one would flip this over and roll this toy along the ground, which would spin the grinder and then also spin the claws. But as you can kind of see, it don't work so well no more. Now, I don't really roughly play with my toys, and while I can remember goofing with that gimmick and quite enjoying it, I haven't really messed with him in a long time, so I'm not quite sure what happened, but there's some internal damage here. Either the gears have worn down over time or just flat out broken because they just don't spin no more. This also takes up one of his big points of functionality. You'll see these two little peg holes as well as this hexagon peg at the top. All of this was supposed to peg into Voyager class Blackout and all of his subsequent repaints and remolds, and then the trigger mechanism on Blackout would activate all the spinning stuff on Scorponok. So you kind of get some of their symbiotic relationship, even though he's way bigger on Blackout than he's supposed to be. So he did have some good functionality, which on this version of the toy does not work anymore. So I guess that says a lot for the durability of the figure. Some of it still works. If I spin the turbine itself, I can get at least one claw moving, and sometimes the other one wants to move as well. So you can see where the effect was. Like, that's a lot of motion going on while rolling around. I do like the spinning tumbler and the grinder in the middle. It's kind of a cool thing. Man, I just wish the whole thing worked so I could actually show you what this is supposed to look like, but it don't want to go, which is really unfortunate. But it is what it is. And hey, it was a cool little trick when it worked. I can say that. The same gimmicky and ratcheting also means that anytime you really flex his arms or move them around, they do tend to spin those pincers. Can I call them pincers? This always bugged me. Yes, they do look quite menacing and vicious. I also question whether or not he could actually grapple anything with them because they do seem rather awkwardly angled. Also, this would have been really neat if I could have opened them up in some menacing fashion. I cannot, for while they are pinned into place and there are gaps that should allow those to actually open up, the molding of the actual pieces does not. They're at hard 90-degree angles that will not bend into the plastic, so they are stuck where they are, which is kind of a letdown, especially on a toy that's very limited in what it can do. So, it's a Transformers line. Can it actually transform in spite of not transforming in the movie? Yes. Yes, it can. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. If I screw this transformation up, I really don't deserve to be on YouTube. So, we'll unpeg the legs from the sides, wheel them down like so. I will rotate the arms back, flip this over, angle the head, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's the robot mode. That's it. There ain't no more. I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, this was just kind of a token inclusion. Yeah, just so he could have some semblance of a robot mode, just so he could be put in a Transformers line, they decided to just jury-rig the most simple of transformations I've ever seen on a deluxe. Literally, the only meaningful transformation element is popping the sides off and folding them down into the legs. That is it. Everything else is absolutely identical. I can't even do the zoom in on the head thing to get the thumbnail like I usually do because it's the same head. Oh my god. This toy pretty much lives and dies by all of those gimmicks inside him. He pretty much exists only to be like a spinning, whirling thingamabob of a toy. And that's all meant for Scorpion mode. It doesn't really play into this mode at all. Look, his tail doesn't even have enough bend to get above his head, so I can't even use the stinger in this mode. It's just a letdown. He does have ball joints in the hips, and he does have a thigh swivel, so that's okay. And he does have a knee bend, and that's about it. So the universal shoulder joints and all that, it does give him like decent articulation as a robot. Awkward as he is to actually play with as a robot because of the giant tail behind him, and this is just sad. I'm sorry, Scorponok. Your robot mode is just not good and not noteworthy at all. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is basically, in a nutshell, deluxe class Scorponok from the first movie line. I'm always interested in Scorponoks because every designer seems to have a completely different take on that character. They all want to use the name, but none of them actually want to make a Scorponok that's been done before. This one is certainly unique in the batch. It's mean looking in beast mode, and it is extremely cool looking in beast mode. Don't get me wrong. And when the gimmick works, it's actually very cool to see in motion. But it's a lot of parts, and the more parts you put in, the more prone it is to failure. And then you have, the robot mode is absolutely nothing to talk about. So it's one of those you get for just one mode and just leave it there for all of time, because frankly, you're most likely going to forget the other mode even exists.